Hello everybody, welcome back to Aurora 4X. We are continuing our campaign as the EarthCorp, a future Earth which is dominated by a single corporation which has gained a monopoly on virtually every sector of the economy by having developed trans-Newtonian physics at a moment of crisis, which has enabled us to expand beyond not only Earth, but also beyond our own solar system. And so it is now February of 2080. We're 30 years into this playthrough, and it's time to bring you guys an update. So last episode, I showed off the designs for our military because, looking at our galaxy map here, we had discovered some aliens in the Asolian system. They blew up one of our survey ships, and so they're really mean, and so now we have to protect ourselves and maybe even go be offensive. In fact, I think that in terms of the RP that we're doing here, where we're trying to be pretty greedy, we're trying to exploit every mineral we can find, colonize every body we can find. I do think it's appropriate that the corporation will be a little hostile towards these aliens. If anything, out of fear that they might come and take our stuff, and obviously everything that we see we assume is our stuff for the taking, but also even out of greed and wanting to take their stuff, right? Whatever minerals they've got in the Asolian system. So that's been going on, but why don't we just do an overview and see where we are at now. In the Sol system, we have pretty large colonies on Mars. Remember, Mars has nice deposits of duranium, neutronium, and corundium, not to mention bornite and vendorite. But these three are enough to be making factories and mines. And so we're just on a continuous loop of mining the resources, then building more factories and more mines to mine more. And the production of this is going to reach a certain point. Like right now, I don't want to take away... actually, this is interesting. I should have looked at this before. But if we look at this, we actually are building up quite a stockpile of these minerals, which means we should be switching the ratios here in favor of construction factories and less so in terms of mines. Or alternatively, it means that I can afford to take some mines off of Mars and go deploy them elsewhere, which I think is what we're going to do. And we'll take a look at where those elsewheres can be. But I do want the construction factory loop to keep building on itself for a while, and eventually we'll be able to, in a very short time frame, just export both mines and construction factories to, the rest of the solar system and mainly outside the solar system. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. Mercury is just a colony because it was pretty easy to terraform. We did finish terraforming it. And so there's now 100 million people living there that are just kind of growing and having fun and just being on Mercury. Mercury can handle a maximum population, I think, of 351 million. So maybe once it gets past 300 million, we'll set it to be a source of colonists. Right now, the Earth is still a source of colonists. I mention that because... actually, we can do that right now. And the reason is... Here, let's do this source of colonists. And... because the Earth is a little tight on workers. And so let's keep the population growing on Earth. Earth was already stable, so we didn't... I think the moon is set as a source of colonists as well. So this is fine as it is. Luna is our financial center, and otherwise isn't doing much. We might need to build a few more financial centers in a bit, but so far so good. We have also colonized the Jovian moons. We seeded them with some infrastructure, and they've been sort of growing and multiplying ever since. Now, Io, I've just basically finished terraforming. the water still needs to precipitate out of the atmosphere, but as you can see, it took about 1.3 atmospheres of astusium to get the temperature to be comfortable. We then added oxygen, and we've got a bunch of water vapor in the atmosphere, but it still has to land and become part of the hydrosphere. But when that happens, I think we have enough in the atmosphere to give us the 20% hydrographic extent. If not, we can bring the terraformers back. In fact, I'm just now moving them away from Io, and we're going to go terraform Europa next. I'm just doing the 4 Jovians basically in order of size, so the earlier projects will go quicker. But Io is also a nice mining moon as well with duranium and corundium, so we'll definitely send over some mines there. And we've also got a colony at Titan, which has mercasium, and that's that. Now, if we look at the comets, we currently have 4 excavator class orbital mining stations. One of them is still in transit. It's being sent to this asteroid here in the Belasco system. One of the issues we have is that, so the main mineral, if we look here at Empire Mining, the main mineral that we're running out of, that we're going to have a shortage of, is gallicite. Gallicite is used for maintenance supplies, which we are starting to use a lot of now. And the problem, well, in the Sol system, so you can see here, Hale-Bopp is a source of gallicite, and we've just put an orbital mining platform there. Herschel-Rigolet had some, but it's been mined out. But I'm keeping the mine here because we might as well get these minerals before we bother moving it. Temple 1, I've also just recently brought a orbital miner, and so we're going to try to get these 20,000 tons of gallicite. The other 2 comets that have a lot of gallicite are Brooks and McNaught-Russell. Unfortunately, these are way out here. And because the orbital miners are 1 million tons each, it takes our tugs way too long to bring them out. The tugs with those 1 million ton stations only go like 160 kilometers per second, so it's going to take years to bring the tugs out, to bring the stations out, which is a waste of time. So I'm going to wait. I'm actually expanding our civilian shipyard. We had a civilian shipyard that used to make tugs. Then we retooled it to make the jump stabilization ships, which we've made 4 of, and I'm fine with that amount. So now we're re-expanding it, and I think we're going to wait until we get some better engines, maybe ion engines, and we'll redesign a newer tug that is also much larger, that should be able to push these stations around much further, much faster, which will be important to reach these comets. So, in the meantime, unfortunately, we can't go and mine Brooks and McNaught-Russell, so we're making do with this. And I searched in the neighboring, in the neighborhood to see if there was something else we could mine, and this asteroid here also has a good amount of gallicite. In fact, a good amount of a lot of things, so we're just going to go mine it. Belasco is the neighboring system to Sol on the galaxy map over here, just one over to the west. And the system isn't super interesting. There is a gas giant here with fantastic sorium accessibility, so we'll definitely be mining gas here. I've set up colonies on the 2 terrestrials, which are easy to terraform. They just don't have any atmosphere, but we're getting the colonies started. Really, in terms of minerals, there are some minerals here. We will probably set up a colony here next, although the colony cost is pretty high. But just because we're trying to colonize everything that we can, so we should stick to that. There's another, but the rest of this stuff is like low gravity. Here the rest of this system is just too far out for us to even bother surveying, so we probably will never really touch these outer system bodies. And yeah, we have some comets here, but we don't currently need these minerals. So as you can tell, we've already stabilized the jump point to Belasco. I've gone ahead also and stabilized to Rendier, although there isn't much here. There are minerals here, but these planets are Venusians, so they're really tricky to colonize. So we're not going to prioritize colonizing this system. Instead, I think we're working our way out to Barseg, Barseg is a really nice compact system with a bunch of terrestrials that can all be colonized, but we're prioritizing this one here because of the Galasite. So right now we're just trying to mine asteroids for Galasite, which is good because the accessibility is high, but the total amount is really low. So although here we only have 0.5 accessibility, first of all, there's a chance the accessibility will get better when we do a survey. But even if it doesn't, this is a big planet, so we can land a ton of mines and a ton of people here. So this will be our long-term source of Galasite until we find something better. Also, once this is stabilized, we can go send a geosurvey detachment here to figure out what's going on under the surface. Now we've stabilized to Uvina, and that was to deploy our forward logistics stations, which I am going to talk about in a minute. Last episode I'd hinted that we were going to go that way, go that route, and we have, so I'll talk about that in a moment. Let me just finish with the colonies here. We've also set up a colony. This was actually our first extrasolar colony in the Aikiba system. We colonized this dwarf planet here, which is, terraformable. Not much of an atmosphere yet, but that can be fixed. It could hold about 1 billion people, and there's some nice mineral deposits. So we've got that colony set up. And there's a Jovian with bad accessibility, Sorium, but I might just deploy a gas miner here just so that the system can have its own local source of fuel. That would be nice to have. We've also stabilized all the way out to Bestine. Now I'm still working on doing the geosurvey of the Bestine system, but for now we have decent Sorium here, and if you'll recall here we have some planets that are colonizable and have, some minerals at least, so we definitely do want to be colonizing the system. We're going to have a lot of colonies, I think, here, but we're still doing the survey for now. And so that's really it. This has been stabilized, so that's it for our colonization efforts. We have a ton of infrastructure that's about to be freed up because Mercury still has infrastructure. We've been taking the infrastructure from Mercury to go to the Belesco system and to the Aikiba system. But once that runs out, we're going to have all the infrastructure from Io, and then we're going to have all the infrastructure from the other Jovians. So we have plenty of infrastructure to seed all these colonies, all these extrasolar colonies. Okay, in terms of just our military ship production, we have a number of ships that have been produced. In fact, if we go to maybe the logistics report, something like that, you can see that we have 4 export class strike cruisers. These are the large 20,000 ton cruisers with a bunch of 15 centimeter laser weapons and also microwave weapons and a bit of PD. We then have about a dozen missile cruisers or missile destroyers, 10,000 tons each, with about 20 size 5 missile launchers. And we've got about 24 Resolute class escort frigates, which have a total of 6 PD guns on each in 3 twin turret configurations. Now, if we look at the current organization, the current state of the fleet, I already have one fully formed fleet that is deployed to the Uvina system, which consists of 10 Resolutes, 5 leverages, 2 exports, and 1 outreach. This is the jump cruiser. And we currently have, so you'll notice here if I close the industry command, we've got the training command and the battle command, and as my ships need to be maintained, I rotate them into the battle command. So you can see here all these ships, not sheeps, all these ships are currently being overhauled, but their training is almost complete. So after this overhaul, they'll head back into Fleet 1 over here and finish the training. Meanwhile, Fleet 3 consists of ships that have finished their training and are currently in tip-top shape, ready to be deployed. So, as you can tell, this is almost a full fleet, the same size as the Uvina fleet. So I'm just waiting for these ships to finish their training, and I will combine them with Fleet 3, and then we'll have two roughly equivalent sized fleets. And once we have that, then I would like to begin operations in the Asulian system. Now, we have deployed in the Uvina system, it is here under logistics fleet bases. So I have Uvina Station, which consists currently of 3 stations, kind of all kind of occupying the same space. And let me show you these designs here, because we've added a few more designs. So we have a fleet base for refueling, the Oasis class refueling station. 500,000 tons. It has a refueling hub, which is 100,000 tons. And then it's got 400 million liters of fuel capacity. That's it. That's all this ship is. And we have plenty of fuel. The currently deployed Oasis is completely full of fuel. And we still have plenty left on Earth. There's another 350 million liters on Earth. And, we're mining it at a good rate. We've got 2 orbital miners around Uranus, which is our source of fuel in the Sol system. And I might queue up another fuel harvesting base or 2 in not too long. But an important, and I'll show you where I've got it deployed, but by having our fleet forward deployed and being able to return to that station to refuel, it really cuts down on the fuel usage of the fleet. Because, military ships burning at full speed take a ton of fuel. If you're using up all the fuel to get into the theater of war where you're trying to operate, then you're doing a lot of round trips for nothing. If you can deploy forward, then that's much better. We also have the Duros class maintenance base. It is also about 500,000 tons, a little bit more. This one has 100 maintenance modules, and with our current technology, that means one of these bases can support a fleet of up to 200,000 tons. Now, the current fleet that's deployed there is 160,000 tons worth of ships. I got some new tech afterwards, which is why the multiplier is a bit higher. So I'm going to wait until I can support. And as you might have seen, I've got a second Duros queued up here on Earth, and once I deploy that one, I'll be able to maintain about 400,000 tons of fleet, and that's when I'll deploy the rest of my fleet to the Uvina system. And it's got like a supply of 50,000 MSP. Which, it has shuttle bays, so it can just resupply ships, but also these are used by the maintenance facilities in order to keep the ships topped off. So you'll notice that my ships here, my fleet which is deployed, is at 0 maintenance because they're in orbit, not quite in orbit, but they're docked at the station, if you will. Not docked, that implies that they're hangar base. They're not in hangars, they're just near the station being maintained, and I've even overhauled them to bring the maintenance clock down to 0. So these are ready to go whenever we need them to. So that's the Duros station. We also have a small recreation ship, although it is also a station, the Spirit class. All it is recreation facilities. So this provides some entertainment for the crews on board. So all their needs are being met out there in deep space. The last fleet base that I'm currently building is the Pallet class ordnance base. And this is also 500,000 tons. It has an ordnance transfer hub, so we can not refuel, but restock all the weapons on my missile destroyers. It has a huge magazine, which I'm not gonna fill up, but it doesn't need to be completely full. Over time, it'll be useful to just have a ton of magazine space. The idea here, what I'd like to try, is to see if I can do a bit more hit and run tactics. It's going to really depend on what kind of fleet the opponent will be fielding, but I'm trying to explore the possibility of, jumping into their system, shooting a bunch of missiles, and if I can do damage by shooting a number of volleys, then I don't have to pursue and go in. One of the issues you have when playing against NPRs is they can have a ridiculous number of missiles, especially anti-missile missiles, and so closing the distance to engage them with beam ships can be really painful. So what I'm hoping I can do is, we'll see, if their task groups, if their fleets are not so large that they don't have overwhelming point defense, so that I can score some hits. I mean, I've got, if we look here, the Uvina fleet has 5 missile destroyers. Each missile destroyer has 20 launchers. So this is 100. This is going to be a salvo of 100 missiles. And so I'd like to test that as a first, effort. We can always combine this with all the rest of my destroyers and go for a 200 missile salvo. And, if that allows me to cripple or damage one ship, I can fire a few volleys. The ships can fire 5 volleys before needing to go and rearm. So if we're able to fire 5 volleys and do damage, maybe even destroy a ship, then I can just do that, then jump back to my base, rearm, and attack again. So that is the plan for now. We'll see if it works based on the PD. We might have to develop some better missiles for that strategy to work. So this is the Uvina system. Yaga Minor is the system that neighbors Sol, so the ships are going to transit through here. And I have made a waypoint here halfway between Yaga Minor and the Solian system. So this is where the fleet is anchored. And when we want to go to the Aeolian system, it's only 1 billion kilometers away. And then the Aeolian system itself, here we're in the center here, and we've got another like 3 billion. Let's say this is 2 billion, so 4. So we've got maybe a 4. So the total round trip is going to be within the fuel capacity, right? So if I go 1 billion to Uvina, then like 3 or 4 billion in here, fight a little bit, and then come back. That is basically the fuel endurance of my fleet. And so that is why I placed it there. So that is something that I'm hoping to do in the not too distant future, and I will actually try to record that because I think that might be interesting for an episode in and of itself. Okay, what else is there to report on? I think, well, you can take a look here at the number of shipyards that we have. I've added a number of slipways. We were talking about ship designs. I've made a couple more small commercial ships. I've got the Mule class support vessel. This is just a small commercial vessel that can move MSP around. So that I can resupply the deep space stations. And I've also made Donkey class, which is a collier to move missiles around. Oh, this one should be, collier like that. To be able to, again, resupply those deep space stations. I think that's it in terms of the designs, So we have the shipyards to do that. In terms of the naval shipyard, so we have 5 slipways for the Resolutes. We've got 4 slipways for the missile destroyers, but I'm continuing production. And we've got 3 slipways, but I'm continuing production too for the strike cruisers. And there's still only the 1 production for the jump cruiser, which I intend not to fight with on the front line. So hopefully I won't be losing any of those ships. Well, I mean, hopefully we won't be losing any ships, but you never know. I should mention I've expanded my ground forces a little bit. So I've designed and then incorporated into some ground elements some surface-to-orbit weaponry. So I have here a twin laser STO. This is one of my point defense twin laser turrets. And then I've got a microwave STO and a 15 centimeter laser STO. And these are these can be now incorporated into formation. Oh, I've also researched a construction elements here, which allows a fortification to happen a lot faster, and also provides an actual like small construction factory bonus to the colony they're on. Anyway, so we've designed an STO PD detachment, which is as follows. So, I've got a new headquarters too, which is just based on the static HQ, and it's a bit more fortified. So this is really a fortified bunker, a fortified STO bunker. So we've got headquarters, we've got 5 twin lasers, we've got 1 microwave, 1 15 centimeter laser. So the idea here, and small, like we've got some, I filled the rest of it mostly with anti-aircraft. We've got 2 construction MVs to help fortify things up, and a little bit of ground infantry and some logistics. So the idea is to have these on our colonies so that if a raiding party were to come and launch a few missiles at us in small salvos, we would hopefully be able to shoot them down. Or even if a small vessel were to come into orbit, then we would be able to. I mean, obviously the twin lasers would be able to shoot at the vessel as well, not only missiles, but we've got a more powerful laser to punch through armor and a microwave to disable weapons. This could even be deployed offensively. If one day we decide to be more aggressive offensively in the Asolian system, we could consider. So this is where the Asolian was destroyed, but we can look at where the fight is going to take place. But we could deploy to one of the planets, to one of the bodies where they are not. Like, in other words, not a massive invasion force. Let's assume one of these planets has an alien colony. We don't have to invade the colony directly. We could just set up a permanent presence on one of the neighboring planets, which we would defend then with these STOs. And from there, launch raids and see if we can mount a final offensive to dislodge the aliens. We'll have to see. That could be something for the future. In the meantime, the STO provide like nice protection for our colonies. So I've deployed to all of our extrasolar colonies. We, like in Belasco here, we've got some some STO detachments as well as colony garrisons. So that is that. I think that's going to be it for the episode for now. I am going to continue to build up those naval forces, continue to train them, and I think I will start shooting missiles in the Asolian system in not too long. So I'll catch up with you guys then. Take care.